Now that we have Python installed and our tools set up, it's time to start writing some actual Python code. But before we fire up our text editor and start diving in, we're going to use Python's interpreted mode in the command line interface to see how easy it is to write and run Python. So I've started up my terminal program, and you can do the same on your computer. Now I'm going to type the command python3 and just hit return. And remember, depending on your installation, the command to invoke Python on your system might be a little different. You might just need to type the word Python or Python 3.6 or some such. Refer to the docs for your installation on your system for the right way to execute Python. So this places me into Python's interpreted mode. And you can see right here is the version number. I'm running 3.6.3 along with some help text. So I'm running the Python interpreter in command line mode. So now I can just simply type some Python and it will run. So I'll just type 2 + 2, and you can see the answer comes back 4. So Python, like JavaScript, is an interpreted language. In other words, it's not like Java or C or C++ or Objective-C. The application does not need to be compiled and built into an executable before you can run it. The Python interpreter simply takes each line of code as it comes across it and interprets and executes it. And in this case, it's simply taking the numerical expression 2 + 2, evaluating it, and you can see it comes back with 4. So let's try something else. I'll type in this line of code. I'll type print hello world and hit enter. And now you can see I've executed the simple Python statement print, which is a built-in function, along with the string hello world. Now, this is not how you would normally write Python code. I mean, obviously, real Python programs are going to be a lot more complex than this. But you can use the Python interpreter in command line mode to try out simple things. All right, so now let's type the word exit, or you can use quit as well, but I'll use exit, followed by an open and close parens. So we're actually calling the exit function, and that will exit us back out of the Python interpreter and into the command line. Now that we've seen how to write and execute some basic Python statements, let's start up Visual Studio Code and write our first Python program. So here we are in Visual Studio Code, and I've closed the start page. And over here in my project, I'm going to open up in chapter 2 the exercise files hello world _start.py. So let's start off by typing the word print. And you can see that as I'm using VS Code, I'm getting statement completion right as I'm typing, which is nice. So I'll just do that. And then I'll open parens and type in hello world. And I'll save. Now, if you're not using Visual Studio Code, then to run this app, you'll need to start up a terminal window and go into the directory for the example file. So let's do that. So I'll go into my exercise files folder, and that's in chapter 2. And then I'll type the command python3 hello world _start.py. And you can see that the program runs and prints the output. If you're using VS Code with the Python extension, however, then you can run the app directly within the editor. So let's go back to VS Code and click on the debug icon right here. And then I'll click on the debug console window to show the output if it's not already visible. So let's change a couple of things. So I'm going to add some code here. So I'll write def main, and then I'll indent the print line. Now, I don't expect you to understand all of this right away. We will be going into this more deeply as the course goes on. But what I'm doing here is defining a function. So line 5 defines a function called main, and that function has only one statement. It just prints hello world. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to run it by clicking the little green arrow. Now, if you get an error when you do this, you're going to have to open the launch settings for VS Code by clicking the little gear icon right here. And again, remember, make sure that this line, the CWD line, is empty. All right, so let's go back to the code. So the debugging toolbar appears, and I'll click on the little green run button, and you can see that nothing happens. The reason nothing happens is because nothing is calling the main function. I've defined the function, but I haven't called it from anywhere. I need to write some code that actually executes function main. And before I do that, the other thing I want to point out is that Python syntactically is a little bit different than other languages you might be used to. For example, in JavaScript, if I were to write something like, function f, and then I'd have these curly braces, that define the function body. I can put some code in here, and I can indent these however I want. It's not going to matter to JavaScript because the white space isn't important. Python doesn't work like that. Python doesn't have this notion of these scope block delimiters like these curly braces. Python actually uses the indentation level of the lines of code to indicate where that code belongs. So because under the definition for the main function, I've got this indented by 2 spaces, that indicates to the Python interpreter that line 6 belongs to the function main, and this little colon character right here is what starts that scope block. So let me get rid of this. All right. So now I'll add some code to execute the main function. I'll write if __name __ double equals main __ colon, and then I'll just simply call the function main. So what's happening here is this line of code on 8 is checking to see that when this Python code file is loaded and the Python interpreter has assigned the __ name property the value of main, that means this Python program was executed as a main program. It was started up from the command line or invoked from the Python executable, and therefore this function right here, main, should be called. I might have chosen to take this Python file and simply include it in another Python application, and in that case, I don't want the main function to be called. What I'm probably doing in that case is including this file as if it was a separate library of code. And if I had a whole bunch of Python code in here that provided some functionality, I wouldn't want those functions to all just get executed. So lines 8 and 9 help distinguish between when a Python file is being included in another program or when that Python code is being executed as itself. So in our case, the file is being executed as a program, and line 8 will evaluate to true, and the main function will be called. If I save this, and I'll run it again, and now you can see that the main function is being executed, and we're getting the hello world output.